This material dissects the highly contentious online fallout between content creators, focusing on allegations of a creator financially manipulating a vulnerable fan to spread false accusation. Let's look closely at the section discussing the timeline of these events to see how we can strengthen this.
Yeah, absolutely. I think anchoring the narrative in a chronological timeline of the primary abuse dynamic provides a necessary foundation for the audience. And right now, well, we just don't have that.
Right. I mean, as I understand it from the notes, the argument here is that we have this creator who basically engaged in this multi-year campaign of manipulation. But looking at the draft, it's structured like a detective's corkboard where someone just took all the red string and completely tangled it together all at once.
Oh, that is exactly what it feels like, yeah.
Like we're jumping so rapidly. We start with Alyssa in 2020, and then boom, we're abruptly fast-forwarding to a reaction video by Adam in 2026.
Right.
And then suddenly pulling back to uncover all these really heavy details about Gracie sitting in a residential treatment center. It is just profoundly disorienting to read.
It really is, which, makes me ask, is the connection between A and B fully established in the material, or is that an area to potentially bolster? Because the primary weakness here is that the timeline wildly oscillates between these different side characters and completely distinct time periods.
Yeah, it bounces around so much.
And because of that, the central most severe conflict, which is the grooming and the manipulation of Gracie, is just so difficult to isolate.
Well, it gets buried, right?
Exactly. It's buried under these thick layers of peripheral drama. So we're asking the reader to care about these email spamming incidents from an Albuquerque IP address. Right at the exact same moment, we're asking them to process this harrowing story of psychological abuse.
Right, and it's like those two things do not carry the same weight at all. So what's the fix here? How do we untangle the red string?
So the suggestion is to reorganize the structure to follow a linear, chronological escalation of the central relationship. Just start at the beginning.
Okay, chronological. Make it simple.
Yeah, and treat all those peripheral characters only as secondary branches that kind of feed into the main narrative later.
I see. So instead of giving them equal weight on page 1, we hold them back.
Right. For concrete examples, the author needs to start the piece in 2019. That was when the creator-fan dynamic with Gracie actually shifted.
Right, when the boundaries started blurring.
Exactly. Ground the reader right there. Detail how Gracie was going through these severe mental health struggles, and then show the exact moment the $1,500 financial support began.
Which is such a massive detail. I mean, sending a fan $1,500 while they are in a treatment center, you have to establish that baseline power dynamic first.
You have to. If you don't show that introduction of financial dependency early on, the rest of it doesn't land. So you start there, and then you move sequentially to the coordination of those false assault tweets.
Right, because that's the escalation.
Exactly. And then followed by the creator, using Gracie's trauma for a 2020 comeback video. And finally, you end with the ghosting.
Man, when you lay it out linearly like that, you really see the trap closing around her. It explains the why behind her feeling stuck.
It really does. And as for the peripheral drama, like Alyssa and the Albuquerque email stuff, just move that to a brief secondary section. Or, honestly...
just cut it entirely?
Yeah, cut it entirely. It doesn't serve the core allegations anyway.
Totally agree. But, even if we fix that timeline and everything's in perfect order, I think there's another layer here. Elevating the focus from insulated internet drama to the systemic dangers of parasocial power dynamic expands the material's impact.
Oh, 100%.
So a key theme running through this material seems to be that extreme imbalance of power, right? But let me push back for a second. If the author leans really heavily into these broader sociological themes, is there a risk that it dilutes the specific, urgent accountability they want against this one creator?
Well, it could, but I think building on that point, what if we looked at it from the perspective of the broader creator economy? Because right now, the weakness is that the material reads as this highly localized personal grievance.
Like it's just two people fighting online.
Right. And it relies way too much on the audience caring about hyper-specific lore.
Oh yeah, the inside baseball stuff. The author keeps dropping names like Peyton and Skia and Creepshow Art, just assuming we know who they are.
Exactly. And if you don't know the exhaustive backstory of some random 2020 YouTube feud, you're just going to click away. It alienates uninitiated readers completely.
So how do we fix that without losing the core story?
The suggestion is to frame this specific conflict as a definitive case study. Use it to illustrate the dark side of influencer-fan relationships and the ethical boundaries of digital communities as a whole.
Okay, I like that. So taking the hyper-specific and making it universal. What would be a concrete example of how to execute that?
Well, take that specific detail we talked about. The creator sending Gracie $1,500 and like 50 messages a day while she was in a residential treatment center.
Right, which is just wild.
It is. So instead of just presenting that as a shocking thing that happened, analyze the mechanism of why it's so damaging. Discuss the unique vulnerability of parasocial relationship.
Oh, like how the money creates this manufactured sense of indebtedness?
Yes, unpack that psychology. And then, as another concrete example, the author briefly mentions Colleen Ballinger in the text.
Right, I saw that. It's kind of just a throwaway line right now, though.
Exactly. It's totally glossed over. We should tell the author to really expand on that comparison. Show how this dynamic represents a systemic pattern of behavior in the digital industry.
To prove this isn't just an isolated feud.
Right, it establishes a historical precedent. It shows that creators frequently use vulnerable fans as unpaid, unregulated crisis PR workers, under the guise of friendship.
Wow, yeah, when you frame it like an unregulated labor and psychological abuse, it just hits so much harder. But, to successfully elevate this piece to that serious commentary level, the delivery really has to mature.
Oh, the tone. Yeah.
Right. Tempering the visceral anger with objective, evidence-based reporting strengthens the overall credibility.
It's so crucial.
The material makes a strong case for malicious intent by highlighting some pretty incredible primary sources, like the leaked Discord audio and the direct messages are undeniable. But, and here is my pushback, if we remove all the raw emotion, does it get too clinical? Like, do we lose the authentic outrage that makes it compelling?
That makes sense, but could the evidence also support a different conclusion? Like just letting the primary sources speak entirely for themselves without the editorializing? Because the weakness I am seeing right now is that the intense, repetitive vitriol actively undermines the gravity of these very serious allegations.
Yeah, the author is constantly throwing out these personal insults, calling the creator demonic or a psychopath.
Right.
There is literally a point where they stop the narrative entirely just to say, wash your fucking hair.
Exactly. And when you are presenting concrete evidence of, financial coercion and grooming and false assault claims, wrapping it in insults like that makes it look like a petty retaliatory mudslinging match.
It makes the narrator look incredibly unreliable or just overly biased.
Right. And it hands the defense a massive shield. The accused can just ignore the facts and play the victim of cyberbullying. So the suggestion here is to adopt a much more restrained, journalistic tone. Let the provided evidence do the heavy lifting.
So trust the audience to get angry on their own. Don't command them to feel it.
Yes. For concrete examples, look at how the leaked Discord audio is handled. In the recording, the creator asks for the tweets to go viral, but says they have to be done, quote, subtly and quietly.
Right, saying it cannot come from them.
Exactly. And currently, the author follows that transcript up with this hugely emotional tirade about them being a demon from the pits of hell.
Which kind of distracts from the actual crime.
It completely distracts. So we suggest replacing that. Just quote the transcript verbatim and then calmly analyze the legal implications of premeditated slander.
Focus on the word subtly.
Exactly. What does that word prove? It proves premeditation. It proves they knew it was wrong.
That terrifying calculation speaks for itself. It's way more intimidating than a screaming insult.
It really is. And additionally, there's that section where the author tackles the creator's recent religious rebranding.
Oh yeah, where they call them a whitewashed tomb who belongs in hell?
Right. Instead of directly calling them a hypocrite like that, the author should just use simple juxtaposition.
Just place the two things side by side.
Yeah. Contrast the highly public religious statements directly against those private manipulative text messages. Put a quote about finding grace right next to a screenshot of them manipulating Gracie in rehab.
Wow.
Let the stark hypocrisy stand on its own. Exactly. The reader will connect those dots, and they will supply all the outrage for you.
That's brilliant. It takes a lot of discipline for an author to remain objective when they're this close to the pain, but it really makes the argument bulletproof.
It transforms it from a rant into an undeniable record.
Well said. All right, let's briefly recap the core feedback. First, untangling the timeline so it focuses chronologically on Gracie, establishing that baseline power dynamic first.
Right.
Second, elevating the narrative from niche internet drama into a systemic critique of parasocial power dynamics in the creator economy. And finally, adopting a restrained, evidence-based tone to bolster credibility, letting the primary sources do the heavy lifting.
Yep, spot on.
We highly invite the listener to apply these actionable suggestions and submit their revised work back in again for further feedback. We would love to see how this evolves.